bother with lames, I'm watching these bunnies bounce. Shorty, you 10, the rubber band, come on for the 100 pound. All of the talk, but don't run a mouth. I'm trying to be out. All I really wanna know.
What's up, guys? Nate here. So today we got quads on deck. So we have 2 leg days. We got like a quad day mostly, and then we have a hamstring day, which I also sprinkle a little bit of quads in there. We'll do that on another day. So today we're going a little bit different style because I do have a little bit of like a lower back injury I've been babying. So this will actually be good for some guys out there because I know a lot of people have injuries and working around that stuff. So today it might be a little different than a normal setup, but it will still really crush the quads and really target what we want to target. Just a little less lower back involvement and a little less stabilization today. And also it's a good thing too because some people might not know, but I'm 35 years old, so I haven't been training super long, about 8-9 years, but the older you get, you want to keep healthy, keep that longevity in the game. So for me, I want to compete at a high level for another 7-8 years. So for that being said, I don't necessarily watch everyone else on Instagram and YouTube and mimic what they do. So you want to take a little bit of these pieces and add your own sort of repertoire per se. So for me, I gotta stay in my own lane. Just because I see another guy squatting 6 plates doesn't mean that's what I should go do. I'm making great development in my quads, so I stay in my own lane, do the stuff that works for me. And then there's other guys out there that can push those crazy poundages. But like I said, for myself, I know my limitations. I push them at the same time, but I'm also, I'm not going overboard to injure myself and put myself on the sidelines, which we don't want.
I don't wanna fall in love. I don't wanna fall in love.
Alright guys, so I just want to give a reason. So we start with quad extensions. So I usually have a rhyme or a reason for my exercise selection. So I start with quad extensions just for another thing is like injury prevention. So what we're trying to do is get everything warmed up, loosened up. So I don't really stretch before legs. I'll maybe like stretch a little bit, but not overly much. Mainly my warming up is either a quad extension or a hamstring curl before I get into like heavy compound movements. So that way your knees, your ankles, everything's gonna get blood flow in there and sort of warm up. And now for our last set for quad extensions, what I love doing is we do a cluster set. So what you're gonna see me do here is we're gonna do 3 rounds with 10-second rest in between, and we're gonna keep the feet locked into the pad, so that way you'll get a little bit of stretch in between with that rest. So it's gonna be something like 12 reps, 8 reps, 6 reps, and then you get a nasty pump, and then you're ready to sort of go on to the next big movements with the quads full of blood. So next we move on to the leg press. Obviously not super sexy movement here, but a reason why I would choose the leg press is a couple reasons, and I would use these indicators to choose your exercises too. Is 1, I can get a full range of motion, so my knees are pretty much almost touching my chest. So a full range of motion means a deeper stretch in the quad, which in return you're getting a better activation throughout the whole quad. And I do think it helps build the outer sweep if you have genetically problematic area to build the outer sweep like myself. It's grown the past 1.5 years very well. I attribute that to a deep range of motion, which I wasn't doing quite as before, just about parallel before. Now we're really, burying the reps. Made us sacrifice a little weight, but the progress in my quads has been worth it, because at the end of the day, this is bodybuilding. So no matter what, at the end of the day, we want to always progress muscularity and prevent something or show something on stage. So they're not necessarily always asking us, you know, how much are you lifting and that kind of stuff. It really doesn't matter as long as at the end of the day you've shown up next year with progress. So another thing too is with this, I can really lock in and I can have a steady tempo without breaking form. So you'll see a lot of people do squats, hack squats. They'll do 1 to 2 reps, sit at the top of at the movement for 3 or 4 seconds, catch their breath, and then go again, and then sort of do the same sort of pattern. With this, as you'll see me, it'll be continuous motion, rep, 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 and they all look the same. So that's what we're after here, and I think that attributes to a better muscular growth, in my opinion. So I've trained myself to have a steady tempo through all my reps now, and I think it's helped a ton. We just finished up on the leg press. So obviously this piece is pretty humbling compared to most leg presses. You're not gonna put like 20 plates aside. So for me last week, I got 8 plates for 12, which is a really solid like set point. So this week I think I got 13 or 14, just showing. I didn't quite lock out all the way at that top because my right cap is like really tight. So when I lock out, I tend to feel that tightness more. So just a note there, or else I would have locked out because that's what I prefer. And then we did a back off set. So we shoot for about 20 reps on that back off set, go about 20% down in weight. So I really like doing that on the leg press. Higher rep stuff on legs is, I think, very beneficial. So another point is to know each body part and how to train it. So for me, my opinion, every body part you gotta train a little different. You know, I like shoulders a little bit higher rep range, chest, back a little bit lower, 8 to 10 rep range. Legs, you know, never below 10. Usually around 12 is like my happy medium. And then definitely throwing in some 15 to 20 rep sets, you know, each session, at least one. I really think the volume on legs has to be a little bit more higher than other body parts. We went on to the horizontal leg press, or some people call it the hip press. Some people would think, oh, 2 leg presses right in a row, but honestly, if you've ever used this piece, it's much different mechanically than the standard leg press. So I feel the first leg press we did is gonna hit more your VMO, your inner thigh, especially with the stance. You know, you sort of got like your toes out, your knees come out as you go down. And then I really like the hip press because it's something that, for me, it's very hard to recruit my outer sweep on my quad. There's not much stuff that does it, but that horizontal leg press, I really feel it in my outer quad sweep. So it's something I've been using since this gym had it, and it's one of my favorite leg pieces. As you'll see in the video, I get very heavy. So it's like 5 plates and a quarter, which is very heavy for that machine. And my best before was 5 plates, 1/4 side, and then just 5 plates on one side. So we went up a quarter this week and hit 10 reps. But the key take-home factor is my weight and my strength gets increased, but my form does not break. I'm still moving like a piston, not locking the reps out. And you'll see my depth, I really can't get much deeper. My knees are practically to my chest. So I'm not, you know, negotiating form for strength. So that's the biggest key take home, is as you guys progressively get stronger, it's only progressive overload if you keep that form, the rep range, tempo as the same it was the previous week. So if I start adding weight on and I start shortening my range of motion or walking out or doing all this other stuff I wasn't doing prior, I don't consider that as getting stronger. You're cheating to get that extra poundage up. So just remember that as you guys progressively get stronger, keep that form tight, keep that rep range and range of motion very deep and consistent. That tempo, that cadence, you know, keep that with you as you get stronger. Bulgarian split squats. So these are pretty basic. I mean, the biggest thing is, just try to get as deep as you can, get as much to stretch as you can, and just stabilize it and stay locked in. Keep your back upright and think about your glutes sitting straight down instead of going forward. So it's like an Olympic lifter keeping their body upright and having their butt stay straight up and down and go straight up and down instead of leaning forward like a lot of people do. And they tend to do this. So we don't want to move a whole lot of movement. Then another nice tip is, I'm sure some people know, but those that don't, sometimes it's hard to set up a split squat. Well, a bench is perfect. You have the bar and the little rails. So as you see, I just hold the rails for stabilization for my balance. So it's really nice that way. So you don't have to really do a whole big setup. You already got the bench there, as long as you're not taking it up and other people in the gym, whatever. It's really good that way. And then we moved on to our last movement, which was adductors. Pretty standard, pretty basic here. I will say, a lot of people have heard me, if they follow me on Instagram, I'm very big on hitting the adductor machine each and every leg day. So if you have a quad and a hamstring day, I put them on both days. It's definitely one of the more underutilized machines I've seen. It's getting more popular now, but you see a lot of guys, they might have great quad sweep or great hamstrings in the back, but they have that thigh gap, as we call, very shallow in the middle. So that'll make any decent sized legs look small because you're missing that big chunk in the middle. If you look at any great bodybuilder with great legs, they usually have a crazy set of adductors on them. Look at Tom Platz. You go take a look at him, he's crazy quads, but he's also got a really thick adductor region, which really completes the leg. So a lot of people I find are very obsessed with training, squat, hack squat, leg press with the narrow stance because they want the quad sweep, but then they forget the inner thigh, the VMO, the adductor region. So I think it's a great idea to put a mixture in. So, do one narrow if you want, and then go back and do more of a wider frog stance like that to hit that VMO and that adductor region. And then, like I said, always hit the adductor machine. You can do it at the end or the beginning. I like both. I usually do it at the end because most adductors, the stacks are pretty light. So usually I'm doing 15 to 20 rep range. If you find a heavier adductor or use one of the pins, then you can do it at the beginning. For me, it's a good warm-up movement too to help open up the hips. But for me personally, I do it at the end just because, like I said, it requires less effort, and I'll save my effort sort of for the big compound movements per se. So another good reason it's good to hit the adductor machine and hit other compound movements to target the adductor is not only will it help in your front shot, because it's going to minimize the gap. You have deep adductors touching low in the leg, and obviously your back shot, like we talked about, is going to help fill that gap. Another thing people don't realize, it really helps the side shot to create that hang from the hamstring. So people think, oh, that must be the hamstring development. Not necessarily the case. If someone has a really meaty, thick adductors, when we pose that, we use that inner thigh to push off the back leg and to create more girth, like I'll show you right now. So you're using this leg, and now you're using this adductor to create that hamstring drop, and you're pushing off this leg, and you get that hang because you're pushing off this leg, which is really some of the adductor. So bigger adductor, more muscle to push off the leg, which creates more thickness in the hamstring right here. Boom. So that was today's quad session. Like I said, a couple things to take home here is, one, I'm still 7 weeks post-show, 7-8 weeks post-show. So my weight is starting to increase, my body weight. So there's a lot of tightness. Anyone that's sort of been bodybuilding, I'm doing it pretty slow as far as putting on the muscle, putting on the weight per se. But you still get a little bit tightness, stiffness to get back to that homeostasis weight, like a body weight where you are more comfortable. As you put the size back on, the weight back on, you get a little more inflammation, a little more tightness. So another reason why I sort of did more fixed motions, the leg press, the hip press, You know, that way this minimizes any kind of back tightness, and I can still progressively get stronger on that. So if I was per se to squat, free bar squat or something of that right now and try to progressively get strong on it, most likely I'd hit a wall. My back would end up getting tight. I'd have to end up sort of taking breaks, maybe have to take an extra day off. So once my body gets back to a normal state of a body weight I am sitting at, resting at, that my body gets comfortable with, then I can start doing a little more squat movements, free bar, safety bar squats. I really like Smith squats, that kind of stuff, because my body will be acclimated to that new weight. Right now, my body is still getting used to the weight getting put back on. So like I said, it's a little bit tighter, stiffness. So that's another reason why we did a couple of those movements. And then, yeah, I mean, a couple key points is, you know, I usually always have 2 to 3 compound movements in there. I always start with a hamstring or a quad extension, hamstring curl or a quad extension, to get nice and warm, nice and loose. And then another thing is, when we did the Bulgarian split squats, I just want to say that's sort of one of the most, I think, underrated movements for quad, or walking lunges. We do a lot of those too, where a lot of people don't want to do that stuff because it's a little bit harder or more taxing. So Matt Jansen always said, do the hard stuff. I think that's what he meant is, you know, I don't want to do walking lunges, but I know the progress that comes from them, you know, hitting the glute, developing that side shot, the detail, the outer quad sweep, that kind of stuff, you know. So it's like I'm forced myself to do those. Other than that, I mean, it was a really good day. Like I said, progressively still getting stronger, you know, doing back offsets, staying in that higher rep range. And to build those quads, you know, I see a lot of guys on the internet, younger kids, they're not really hitting that full range of motion, which I want to drive home. That really made a big difference in my quad development. Anyone that follows me the last year and a half, my quads really were probably like the biggest body part that improved, because I was sort of known for having my legs a little behind my upper body. That really came up, and they match, I think, a lot this year. So for me, you know, getting back to the fundamentals of very deep range of motion, thinking calves hit the hamstrings, that kind of range of motion, but also having to take a step back in strength, you know, because before I was hack squatting 8 plates aside on the pre-core, you know, now might be 6 or 7, but the execution is much better. You know, range of motion is much deeper. Like I said, my cadence is much better as far as, you know, consistent rep range, no breaks, no rests, constant tension on the muscle. So those are a couple key take-home points when people ask me, oh, how do you get your quads to grow? How do you target your outer sweep? You know, I don't believe in necessarily foot position is the end-all be-all. It might have a minor play as far as like targeting what muscle group, but I'm not completely sold on that. I'm more sold on deep range of motion, perfect reps, perfect execution to really get the quad sweep to grow. Yes, there might be a little bit of muster used at the end or body English. I think that's fine personally. You know, if you get 10 reps and you want to grind out another one and you have to use a little bit more might, obviously there's a variance of how much might, but if you got to use a little bit, I think that's okay to get you through the break through that other side. So yeah, those are a couple tips to sort of help you guys next quad day to bring up your quads.